What's going on, everybody? Max Ralph and Johnny McGonigal here for the Blue-White Breakdown on PennLive. We are recording here. It's Wednesday, August 14th. Just got done. James Franklin spoke last night. Unfortunately, neither of us were there. Bob Flounders had us covered, so go check out his coverage online at PennLive.com. But a couple of quick news bites here, Johnny, that we want to hit really fast before we start diving into some Penn State AP poll placement discussion and all that good stuff. So the first one that really jumped off the page before practice yesterday, running back Keandre Barker, who is in that 2025 recruiting class, decommitted from Penn State. Now, he said he was keeping Penn State in the mix still, but this one doesn't really surprise us, I don't think.
No, definitely not, Max. It's one that honestly I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. He did come out in June and reaffirmed his commitment to Penn State, which kind of tells you that there was something maybe bubbling under the surface that he was considering reneging on that commitment to Penn State. He ultimately did that this week, 3-star running back from Arkansas. And, we say that we're not necessarily surprised because he was one of the first guys in this class, the 2025 recruiting class, committing all the way back in April of 2023 after the Blue-White game. And, then since then, they've added Tyke Hayes from Aliquippa. They added Jabri Wallace-Coleman, from Imhotep, both 4-star prospects at the running back position. And, if you're Keandre Barker looking at the situation, maybe it's better off going to an Arkansas or going to, a team below Penn State's rank and standing in terms of the greater college football picture. But, joining a class somewhere that maybe doesn't have a running back or only has one. And some people might say that's running away from competition, but, that's just the scholarship math. That's the recruiting math that goes on. Not only coaches' heads when they build these classes, but players, and they got to go to the school that they feel is best for their future. And Keandre Barker decided that, at least this week, the Penn State isn't it reopening his commitment or, his recruitment, and we'll see where he ultimately lands.
Yeah, I think it's not really a huge concern. When you watch the tape of Wallace Coleman, the kid is dynamic. He's really good. He's one of the top running backs in this class. And I think Tyke Hayes out of Aliquippa is honestly undervalued right now. So I think both of those running backs are really good players. And I don't think Penn State really needs 3 running backs in this class. So not a concern there. I think if you go back and talk about some of the other news bits that we got yesterday, James Franklin speaking after practice, a couple of freshmen that had noteworthy things happen to them to keep it on the almost on the same recruiting tab. We'll start with Peter Gonzalez, the wide receiver out of Pittsburgh. He's got a long-term injury. I think the wording Franklin used was not short-term. So, take that for what you will. But he's going to be out for a little while. Hasn't been practicing, which is really a tough blow for Peter because he had an injury in high school that he had to overcome to even get this offer for Penn State. He enrolled. He had impressed the strength staff once he got there. Franklin literally a week ago called him Steady Eddie on the field. So this one's kind of a disappointment for a young kid who obviously position Penn State needs and a guy who was doing some good things.
Yeah, definitely a tough blow for Peter Gonzalez at a Central Catholic in Pittsburgh. And you mentioned that injury, Max, that he had in high school. I remember talking to Peter after he ultimately committed to Penn State and got the green light, to commit to Penn State because he had an offer, but it was kind of up in the air a little bit, not only from Penn State, but from other schools after, Peter Gonzalez, he tore his ACL in January of 2022, I believe, and, had to work his way back, ended up playing in that 2022 season, his junior season. And he told me he wasn't even really 100%, but he just wanted to give it a go and show coaches that, he's back out on the field and can play. And then that summer, ran some ridiculous numbers, tested really well, especially at a camp at Penn State that ultimately gave James Franklin and his staff the confidence to give him the green light to commit. And he did, and he signed, and he one of 2 guys from Central Catholic in the 2024 recruiting class, along with Anthony Specca, the linebacker. And there was hope that Peter Gonzalez, whose dad played quarterback at Pitt, comes from really good genes and has a really good head on his shoulders, that he might come in and make an impact early. And that doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, at least early on in the 2024 season. We'll see how long Peter Gonzalez might be out, but tough blow for him and for Penn State too, obviously. One other name to keep in mind there. I know this isn't the name you're going to go to, Max, but I'll throw, plug a story you did. Tyseer Denmark, the other true freshman, summer enrollee, wide receiver from the 24 class, turning some heads already in preseason camp. And so maybe that's one. Maybe that's a youngster at the wideout position, a position that we've talked about a lot really over the last, even before you were hired by us, Max. So going back 2 years, a wide receiver room that has been a question mark for this team. Maybe Tyseer Denmark can provide an answer. But at tight end, the other note that James Franklin brought up was Luke Reynolds, and seemingly already given the green light, from a true freshman redshirt standpoint. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, James, if any listeners aren't aware, he always talks in the red light, green light, yellow light category for freshmen. He'll give us that presumably on the Monday before West Virginia. But it does sound like Reynolds is going to play in 4+ games this year, which is kind of crazy to think about, considering especially his position group is deep. Like, the tight end room is strong. So you got Tyler Warren, Khalil Dinkins, Jerry Cross, not really a big pass catcher, but he's been here for a few years. If he's healthy, he'll probably be on there on running situations. Andrew Rappelier getting a lot of good talk. But now we have Luke Reynolds, this former 5-star freshman who comes in, and he's already getting the green light. So it's surprising a little bit, to be honest, because it's just, I guess if you hear that, the first reaction is that means that he is standing out so much more than you probably could have hoped for, because they didn't need him to play right away. I talked with Ty Howell in June at Penn State's Lift for Life event that the big thing for Reynolds when he got here is a kid who played some wide receiver, some quarterback in high school. The big thing was just getting his body ready to play tight end at the next level, and he did that. Ty Howell was saying he looks like he belongs around Andrew Rappelier, around a Tyler Warren, around a Jerry Cross. So he's taken the steps they needed from him so far, and big news for any freshman to already be getting the green light from James Franklin. So I think Denmark is up there. I think Reynolds is going to get that. And to do a plug of another story that you can go read online that I think maybe your brain was going the same way, Johnny. Cooper Cousins on the offensive line. He's probably going to be in that green light category too. Yeah,
definitely. Cooper Cousins, someone that we've talked about. Even going back to when he was a recruit, the first guy in his class, and was a leader in that class. But I feel like people kind of pigeonholed him into that a little bit, and not recognizing just how good of a player he was at Erie McDowell, and came in and has come in to Penn State with the intent of playing early. You hear from his teammates what they've said about him, from his work ethic, kind of the first guy in, last guy out mentality. He's really taken that on. And he has a real opportunity, maybe not to start, but, Penn State over the years, especially recently, has kind of allowed more offensive linemen to rotate in early in the season, and just for Phil Troutwine, the offensive line coach, and the rest of the staff to get a handle on what they have, what they don't have, what combinations work, what combinations don't work. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Cooper Cousins, true freshman, in there at center, in there at guard, week 1 against West Virginia. I mean, I don't think that's out of the question, and not necessarily even in garbage time, because I think they feel good about what they have, especially from a leadership standpoint, and Nick Dawkins at center, a veteran who's waited his time. Sal Wormley is a multi-year starter at left guard, right guard, would firmly expect him to be there. But then you've got Vengayon, you've got JB Nelson, maybe the swing tackle, maybe a guard, some fun variations to play with on that offensive line, and Cooper Cousins is right in the mix there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that was another talking point Franklin had last night, was that they're going to play 3 guys at tackle. You're probably looking at Drew Shelton, Nolan Rucci, and Javen Williams, potentially some JB Nelson there too,
or even Anthony Donko too.
Anthony Donko, yeah. Wow, that was a name that I should not have forgotten, because I think personally, I think he's probably going to be the starter. But Donko could be over there at right tackle. They're going to play multiple guys at every spot on the offensive line. And yeah, Coop is definitely up there. Like I said, go check out the story on PennLive.com. But it's a little teaser. He has a habit of being in the building real late at night, and some older teammates have had to deal with him. So it's kind of funny. He certainly seems like a big personality that is going to be under the spotlight for Penn State for years to come. Let's move on now. I think those are the big news points that we wanted to hit. But Penn State in the AP poll, the first preseason rankings, Penn State came in at 8th, and I mean it's another top 10. It's not a it's not a knock by any means. It's a good ranking, and maybe, I don't know, higher or lower. Johnny, you have the AP vote for us. Give us your thoughts. Give us your reaction. Tell us where you had them.
Yeah, so I had Penn State 7, and honestly, when I was cooking up my ballot, and we send it in, a couple weeks before it comes out, and it came out this Monday on the 12th, and I was thinking that I was like, 7, like I was going back and forth between 7, 8, and 9 with Penn State, just with the teams around them where I had them, and I was thinking that they were going to be just a touch further back in terms of the national scale, because you think about the last impression that Penn State had was the loss to Ole Miss, and I know a lot of people away from covering the team, Max, or even just fans who obviously pay close attention. The bowl opt-outs had an effect in the Peach Bowl, but some people don't remember that their final thought is just, hey, they lost to Ole Miss, and this is the same team that just lost to Ohio State and Michigan for the millionth time. And so maybe they would be – I was expecting them to be maybe 11, 12 or something like that. So to see them in 8th, I think, is just a recognition nationwide of what Penn State has returning. Obviously, they lose some key pieces, key draft picks, but a lot of teams do, especially in the transfer portal era. And so I think when you look at returning production from what Penn State has, and the air of confidence and positivity that Andy Kotelnicki is bringing to the offensive side of the ball, I think that has spoken volumes with the voters. And again, ultimately, the AP poll is the barometer that we have through 7 weeks until the college football playoff rankings take over. But I think it's just a good recognition of kind of where Penn State has put itself over the years, that there's confidence that this is going to be a top 10 program, but also more specifically to this team that they'll be a top 10 team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think after the 2022 season, have that great Rose Bowl win, you see all these freshmen coming in and contributing right away. I think that a lot of us on the beat and fans too kind of said, okay, 23, 24, that's your window. That's when you have to break through. That's when you got to do it. But a lot of people, because there was still that overlap between the veteran guys who were on the 2022 team and the young guys that were going to take the next step, a lot of people kind of said 23 was the year to make it or bust. And if that doesn't work, 2024, it's back in the dumps. It's back to mediocrity. And I think that the Peach Bowl loss, like you said, kind of made it hurt a little bit more. But if you really look holistically at what Penn State has done, at what they have on the roster, I'm not sure that there really should be much of a different perception of this year's team in the preseason compared to last year. Sure, there are some losses on the defensive side, but they've plugged holes really well in the portal and with younger names. The coaching turnover is a thing, but I think if you want to do a scale thing, I think they actually probably got better on their coaching staff, because I expect Kotelnicki to outweigh Yurcich by more than Manny Diaz could to Tom Allen. So I think that it's just not as much of a drop-off as people should expect. I think the number 8 ranking is pretty fair. One spot ahead of Michigan, behind only Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten. And a shout out to Bill DiFilippo on Twitter. He's a good Penn State follow, but he pulled some numbers comparing last year in their preseason versus this year. Penn State 7th in the AP poll last year. The SP Plus calculation that ESPN throws out comparing strength of teams. 6th last year, 7th this year. Football Power Index, actually 10th last season and 6th this year. So quite a bit better this year. Title odds, plus 2,500. And Big Ten title odds, plus 500 this year, plus 550 last year. So I don't know. I think the window is still open, personally.
Yeah. Oh, no, it certainly is. I mean, and you talk about betting odds, Max. If you take a gander at teams to make the playoff this year in the new 12-team playoff, I'm pretty sure Penn State is like minus money. I'm pretty sure they're like minus 140 or 150, something along those lines. And obviously that's just the books. That's there's obviously different things you can look at, different statistics. Our own eyes, we can see, what this team, was last year and what they're going to be this year. But yeah, I felt that 7th was fair to put them there. I think 8th is a perfectly fair and good number to have them. Just for reference, my top 10 was Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Ole Miss, Bama, and then it was Penn State, just ahead of Notre Dame, Missouri, Utah, and I had Michigan slightly on the outside of the top 10 at 11. So a few of those teams were swapped around a bit in the overall AP poll. One thing, Max, that I actually posed, to our PennLive tech subscribers earlier this week. After I did a kind of a little debrief of the AP poll, some takeaways, some reactions, taking a look at some trends over the years. And I posed to our subscribers, and if you haven't already, subscribe to that because, we'll obviously, give a lot of tidbits on there, access to us, me, Max, and Bob, and even Joe Hermit, our photographer. Yep. And then we'll be doing mailbag, podcasts throughout the season and fielding questions on that. So it's a really good tool and really good avenue to get some different perspectives from us, on this team. But I asked our subscribers, and told them that basically pretty much every year for the last, I think it's 18 out of the last 20 years, or maybe 28 of the last 30. There's been at least one team preseason ranked number 10 in the AP poll that finishes the season unranked. And I posed it to them to say, hey, who do you guys think that could be this year? And, for me, I picked out 2 teams, but Max, take a look at the AP poll, the top 10. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. Yeah. And I want to get a team or two that you're keeping an eye on that is in the top 10 preseason, but could fall out unranked. I have my 2 teams in my head.
Yeah. I think a lot of Big Ten people, a lot of Penn State fans especially, are going to flock to Michigan right away. Definitely possible. But, I think that there is a little bit more of a foundation there than people are going to expect, because obviously they lost a lot and they lost their head coach, whatever. But I don't think it's Michigan. I think I'd probably go with my number 1 choice would be Florida State, because they lost so much from last season. I mean, you think about how the thrashing they took from Georgia. It's because about half of their starters were bowl opt-outs. So they have a new quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. I think he's going to do well down there. Sure,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even study that, but
so when I was covering Pitt for the Post-Gazette and they played Clemson in 2021, I was studying Uiagalelei for like the entire week so that when we recorded our podcast back at the PG, I wouldn't mess it up. But that's pretty good. I give that like an 8.6 out of 10.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll take it. You're the expert apparently. So
yeah, apparently.
But yeah, I'd look toward Florida State for sure. Yeah. I never buy it with Notre Dame either, is kind of my thing. They got to prove it to me, Yeah. I think Riley Leonard's a good quarterback. I think what he did in that Duke Notre Dame game last year was really, really good. And it's a shame he got hurt. So I think a lot of things could happen, but I think Florida State is definitely my top on that topic. How about you?
That's a good pick. And on the Notre Dame bit, I was thinking about IDing them. They always have, they get crap for having a bad schedule. And I grew up not loving Notre Dame at all. So, but I will give them credit where normally their schedule is pretty tough, even though people say that their schedule is soft.
100%.
This year,
tough non-cons.
Yeah. This year, their schedule is actually pretty soft. Okay. I mean, they open, I believe, at Texas A&M. But aside from that, just a couple of teams sprinkled in there. So I think, and then with the Notre Dame like brand and everything, even if they're 8-4, they'll still find their way back into the rankings. My two teams that I ID'd were, Michigan for the reasons that you laid out, Max, and I just think their schedule, is so difficult when you look at it. They have, Texas, they have Ohio State, Oregon, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 teams in the preseason poll. They got to play them this year. And then that's even before that you look at the rest of their, schedule. I mean, they like 10-2, 9-3 is, a definite possibility for them, but so is, I think, 7-5.
Yeah.
And then the other team that it felt weird, IDing in this spot was Alabama, just because it's Alabama. But
yeah,
they got Milroe coming back, but they lost a lot from the portal. No more Saban. And again, the schedule in the SEC that Alabama has this upcoming season is just, I mean, it's always a gauntlet in the SEC, but you add in the new teams there, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a difficult first year for Kalen DeBoer. But the guy knows how to coach. So again, if they made the playoffs, like I wouldn't like none of these 10 teams. If they made the playoffs, like they're preseason top 10, at least for a variety of reasons. But if we're going to put our neck out on the line, I'm going to go with Michigan and or Alabama on that. So it's always a fun talking point. And it's going to be a fun talking point throughout the year in terms of the polls and the rankings. And this team, there were a couple of subscribers that responded to that and said Penn State would fall out of it, would be unranked. And I'm like, guys, it's August. Like, why so nihilistic so soon?
You know what? I think that there's just a little bit of Debbie Downer syndrome after the end of last season, like we said. But you brought up Alabama. Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a head coach. Crazy thing that I had not thought about until I was talking with somebody else on the topic the other day. He kind of broke onto the scene because of Tom Allen at Indiana, who is now at Penn State. So, but just like kind of crazy to think that the guy who's the head coach at Alabama now was not that long ago the offensive coordinator at Indiana. So,
and the guy who was a finalist for the Heisman, Michael Penix, was the quarterback. Like all things apparently stem from Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah. I don't know. I almost went to Indiana out of high school, so it's a cool place. But yeah, an interesting tree there. But
yeah, definitely.
I think before we send this out, just one more note that I wanted to throw out there is on the subtext topic. Johnny, you mentioned it. Make sure you guys are subscribing to that, because one of our biggest goals here for this upcoming season is to connect with you guys more via that platform. On these podcasts, we want to at least once a week answer a few questions from you guys via that avenue. So make sure you get on the subtext. Really good avenue to connect with us to connect with you, and get some exclusive content from the PennLive team. So
yeah, and one thing to just add on that, tying in that with the AP poll and stuff, like every week, like I did, the last 2 seasons, every Sunday morning after the college football games are over, I will have my AP ballot on the website. So, again, if you're a listener, not a subscriber to PennLive, be sure you do that so you can wake up and read that every Sunday morning. But then throughout the week, or maybe even that Sunday, before NFL starts, if people are around and want to chat a little bit on the tech subscriber platform, you definitely have conversations about where I have people ranked. Because I tell people all the time, like, if you disagree with me, reach out to me. And I do get some emails, but I feel like that might be a more streamlined process to sort through some of that. So, yeah, we'll definitely have some fun and a lot of insight on the tech subscriber feed this season. So be sure to check that out and hit a subscribe on that.
Yeah, make sure to text Johnny about the Eagles and the Phillies as well. Don't come to me that way, because I enjoy the downfall, but
yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to share in my misery while the Phillies, surely they will disappoint us again in Red October, assuming they get there. I'm kidding. They'll be there, but we'll see. Definitely have some combos on there through that too. But Max, it was good catching up with you, man.
Absolutely.
Always is. And And yeah, I hope you have some good golf in your future. I know that you were out recently and it didn't bode well for you. And I'm going actually on taking a couple days of PTO and going on a golf trip myself. And I'm hoping the courses don't eat me alive down in North Carolina.
I was gonna say, yeah. The last round I played the other day was worst I've played potentially all year. Just all sorts of things going wrong in the head, and it's a real shame because I was kind of on that track where I felt like I was getting better every time I played, and then it just all goes out the window. But Johnny, safe travels to you this weekend, and enjoy a pretty awesome golf trip.
Yeah, if anyone's ever been to Pinehurst and has any suggestions, go ahead and hit my email with any recommendations. We'll be staying on property, so very much looking forward to that, and looking forward to our next podcast, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. For the record, I don't think Penn State is dropping out of the AP rankings this year. Let us know if you think that, and keep track with us on PennLive.com. We have a lot coming. It's camp season, Penn State, West Virginia, August 31st.